First contact, first blood. The crystalline towers of Nova Arcturus glittered like frozen flames against the purple twilight sky. Commander Maya Chen adjusted her active camouflage suit, the nano-fabric rippling as it adapted to the alien architecture surrounding her. 6 months of planning had led to this moment. The opportunity to infiltrate the Valorian Empire's most secure research facility and uncover the truth about their new weapon program. Approaching primary target, she vocalized, the quantum comm implant transmitting her words directly to Earth Command, light years away. No sign of enhanced security yet. Maya had earned her reputation as Terran's Special Operations' finest infiltrator through a combination of enhanced reflexes, tactical brilliance, and an almost supernatural ability to read situations. But something about this mission felt wrong. The Valorians were notorious for their paranoia, yet she'd encountered minimal resistance. A whisper of movement caught her attention, the faintest disturbance in the air that shouldn't have been possible in the facility's carefully controlled environment. Maya's augmented senses kicked into overdrive as she dropped into a defensive stance, her molecular blade materializing in her hand. "I was wondering when you'd notice." A deep voice rumbled from seemingly everywhere at once. Most intruders don't last nearly this long. The air itself seemed to twist and tear as a figure emerged from what Maya had assumed was solid wall. Over 7 feet tall, with iridescent scaled skin and eyes that burned like distant stars, the Valorian warrior moved with a fluid grace that defied his massive size. "Krell Valthorian," Maya breathed, recognizing the legendary commander of the Valorian elite guard. "Your reputation precedes you." "As does yours, Commander Chen." His mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement, though the reports clearly understated your beauty along with your skill. Maya's blade hummed as she shifted her weight, analyzing potential escape routes. "Flirting with the enemy. How unprofessional." "Professional courtesy between equals," Krell corrected, his own weapon. A crackling energy staff, extending to its full length. It would be disrespectful not to acknowledge excellence, even in an adversary. They moved at the same instant, blade meeting staff in a shower of sparks. Maya's augmented reflexes allowed her to match Krell's inhuman speed, but his raw strength was overwhelming. Each impact sent shockwaves through her arms. "The weapon plans," Maya grunted as they locked weapons, faces inches apart. "What are they for?" "You already know," Krell replied, his alien features impossible to read. "Or your commanders do. The question is, do they tell their best operative everything?" The comment struck harder than any physical blow. Maya had been having doubts about this mission from the start, but hearing them voiced by an enemy commander made them impossible to ignore. Their deadly dance continued through the facility's winding corridors, neither able to gain a decisive advantage. Maya's suit was beginning to show damage from near misses, while Krell's scaled armor bore new scorch marks from her blade. "We could do this all night," Krell noted during a brief respite, both warriors breathing heavily. "But I suspect time isn't on your side." He was right. Maya's extraction window was closing, and she still hadn't reached the central data core. But something else was bothering her, the way Krell seemed to be hurting her rather than trying to capture or kill her. "Why are you really here?" she demanded, eyes narrowing. "This isn't just about stopping an infiltrator." Krell's inner eyelids flickered. "Perhaps we're both being used, Commander. Pawns in a game whose true players remain hidden." Before Maya could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. But these weren't intruder alerts. They were warning of something far worse. "Containment breach in Sector 7, an automated voice announced in both Terran and Valorian. "Biohazard protocols engage. Facility lockdown initiating." Maya's blood ran cold. Sector 7. Exactly where she'd been ordered to plant a surveillance device if she couldn't reach the data core. The device that, she now realized, had never been fully explained to her. "Your leaders," Krell said grimly, "just tried to unleash a biological weapon in my facility, one that would have killed everyone, including you." Maya's world tilted on its axis. No, they wouldn't. But they did. Krell deactivated his staff, taking a calculated risk. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Maya stared at her enemy, this honorable warrior who had just shown more concern for her life than her own commanders. In that moment, everything she thought she knew about the war, about her mission, about the very nature of the conflict between their species, began to unravel. "Show me," she said finally, lowering her blade. "Show me everything." Krell nodded, extending a scaled hand. "Together then, Commander Chen." As Maya took his hand, feeling the strange texture of his skin against hers, she knew she was crossing a line from which there would be no return. But as their eyes met, human determination meeting alien wisdom, she also knew it was the right choice. "Together," she agreed. "And call me Maya." The facility's lights flickered ominously as they headed toward Sector 7. Two legendary warriors united by betrayal and a growing sense that they were on the verge of uncovering something far bigger than their age-old conflict. Neither could have guessed how their unlikely alliance would reshape the fate of both their species, or how their professional respect would evolve into something far more complicated and profound. Between duty and desire. Target acquired. Maya whispered into her comm unit, tracking the movement of the arms dealer through her enhanced scope. 3 weeks had passed since the incident at Nova Arcturus, and she'd been running solo missions ever since, officially deep undercover, while she and Krell investigated the truth behind the attempted bioweapon attack. The neon-drenched streets of New Singapore's orbital hub pulsed with life below her perch. Here, in the gray zone between Terran and Valorian space, information flowed as freely as synthetic liquor, if you knew where to look and whom to ask. "The target is moving to the rendezvous point." A familiar rumbling voice responded through their secure channel. Even filtered through encryption, Krell's voice sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. Maya pushed the feeling aside, focusing on the mission. Their target, a notorious weapons developer named Santiago Cruz, had ties to both Earth Command and the Valorian military complex. More importantly, he had information about who had really ordered the bioweapons deployment. "He's not alone," Maya noted, watching as 2 figures in distinctive crimson armor fell into step behind Cruz. "Valorian Royal Guard. Your people are here too, Krell." "Not my people. Not anymore." There was a weight to his words that Maya understood all too well. They were both outcasts now, operating in the shadows while trying to prevent a catastrophe neither side seemed willing to acknowledge. Cruz and his escorts entered the Lucky Dragon Casino, its holographic facade shifting through a rainbow of colors. Maya activated her chameleon suit and began her descent from the rooftop. "Moving to position Alpha. Watch my back." "Always," Krell responded simply. The casino's interior was a sensory assault of clicking gambling machines, drunken laughter, and the mingled scents of a dozen different species. Maya's enhanced senses filtered through the chaos, tracking Cruz as he made his way toward the private gaming rooms. She caught a glimpse of Krell across the casino floor, his massive frame somehow blending seamlessly with the crowd, despite his species' notorious inability to gamble discreetly. Their eyes met briefly, and Maya felt that now familiar surge of something. Attraction. Trust. Both seemed equally dangerous in their line of work. "Package delivered," Krell subvocalized, and Maya spotted the miniature drone he released. No larger than a playing card, it would hack the casino's security and give them access to the private rooms. Cruz disappeared behind a velvet curtain, his guards taking up positions outside. Maya approached from one direction while Krell circled around, their movements synchronized after weeks of working together. Now, Maya commanded, and they struck simultaneously. Krell's massive form materialized behind one guard, his neural stunner dropping the Valorian before he could react. Maya engaged the second, her augmented reflexes allowing her to slip past his defenses and deliver a precise strike to a nerve cluster. They caught Cruz trying to flee through a hidden door. The arms dealer took one look at the unlikely pair, human infiltrator and Valorian warrior, and raised his hands in surrender. "I should have known," he said with a bitter laugh. The rumors were true. The greatest hunters of both species working together. The bioweapon, Maya said, her molecular blade humming to life. "Who ordered it?" "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Kruz warned, his eyes darting between them. "There are forces at work here beyond your comprehension. Powers that make your petty war look like children squabbling in a sandbox." Krell's massive hand wrapped around Kruz's throat, lifting him effortlessly. "Explain." But before Kruz could answer, the casino's lights flickered and died. Through the darkness, Maya heard the distinctive whine of teleport beacons activating. "Down," she shouted, tackling Krell as energy beams crisscrossed the room. Kruz's body slumped to the floor. A precise hole burned through his forehead. Maya found herself pressed against Krell's armored chest, his body shielding her from the assault. This close, she could feel the alien rhythm of his heartbeats, smell the strange metallic sweet scent of his species. Their eyes met in the darkness, and for a moment, the battle raging around them seemed to fade away. The moment shattered as more attackers teleported in. Elite soldiers wearing armor Maya had never seen before, neither Terran nor Valorian in design. "Time to go," Krell growled, his staff expanding to full length. They fought their way out together, moving with the fluid grace of partners who had trained together for years rather than weeks. Maya's blade sang as she danced through the attackers, while Krell's raw power sent enemies flying. They emerged onto a maintenance walkway, alarms blaring throughout the station. Maya's suit was smoking from near misses, while Krell's scales bore several scorch marks. "What were those things?" Maya demanded as they ran. "That armor design, the teleport technology, none of that should exist." Kruz was right, Krell replied grimly. "We've stumbled onto something far bigger than our war. The question is, who's really pulling the strings?" Maya finished. They reached a maintenance shaft, their planned escape route. "Maya," Krell said suddenly, catching her arm. "Whatever we've discovered, whatever we're facing, I want you to know." She pressed a finger to his mandibles, silencing him. "I know," she said softly. "Me too." The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken words and dangerous possibilities. Then reality intruded as another alarm sounded, and they were running again. Two outcasts bound together by duty, danger, and something neither dared to name. Behind them, the casino's lights flickered back to life, its gaudy facade hiding the deadly secrets that had just been revealed. And somewhere in the shadows, unseen forces were moving, preparing to deal with these two unexpected variables in their grand design. The revelation. The abandoned mining facility on Titan's dark side loomed before them, its titanium alloy dome scarred by decades of methane storms. Maya's ship, a borrowed Terran scout vessel, settled onto the landing pad with a gentle hiss. The data from Kruz's neural implant led here. Krell asked, his massive frame making the cockpit feel even smaller. Maya tried not to focus on how close they were sitting, or how his alien warmth seemed to fill the space between them. According to the decrypt, she confirmed, bringing up a holographic display. This facility was officially abandoned 20 years ago, when the methane wells ran dry. But look at the power signatures. Krell leaned closer, his scaled shoulder brushing hers. Active reactors. Someone's been keeping this place running, and paying a fortune to keep it off both our government's radar. Maya checked her weapon systems one final time, ready to find out why. The facility's airlock cycled them through, their environment suits protecting them from Titan's lethal atmosphere. Inside, emergency lighting cast long shadows through corridors that should have been dead and empty. Instead, they found signs of recent activity, footprints in the dust, maintained equipment, fresh power cells. "Maya," Krell said suddenly, his enhanced senses picking up something. "Listen." She heard it then, a low thrumming that seemed to vibrate through the facility's bones. It was familiar somehow, triggering memories of her military training. "That sounds like," she began. "A quantum forge," Krell finished. "But that's impossible. The technology doesn't exist yet. Neither of our species has cracked quantum-level manufacturing." They followed the sound to a massive blast door. Maya's hacking suite made short work of the locks, but what they found inside made her wish she'd left them sealed. The chamber was vast, its walls lined with technology that shouldn't exist for centuries, and floating in massive tanks filled with iridescent fluid were things. Hybrid creatures that combined the worst aspects of human and Valorian physiology, twisted into weapons of war. By the first star, Krell breathed, his mandibles clicking in distress. "What have they done?" Maya accessed a nearby terminal, her implants interfacing with the alien system. This is insane. They've been experimenting with forced evolution, trying to create the perfect soldier by combining our species. Who would do this?" "We would." The voice came from behind them, cultured and precise. They spun to find a human woman in an immaculate white suit, flanked by guards in that same unknown armor they'd encountered at the casino. Or rather, those of us who understand the bigger picture. "Director Wells," Maya gasped, recognizing her former superior at Earth Command. "You're behind this." "Not just her," came another voice, and a Valorian High Commander stepped from the shadows. Krell dropped into a fighting stance. "High Commander Valshar, my own father. I should have known." "You should have," Valshar agreed. "Who else could have arranged for Earth's best operative to infiltrate our most secure facility? Who else could have ensured my son would be there to meet her?" Maya's mind raced. You planned our meeting." "The bioweapon attack." "A test," Wells said smoothly. "We needed to know if two of the finest warriors of both species could work together, could overcome their prejudices, could connect." "Why?" Krell demanded, though Maya suspected they both knew the horrible answer. "Because the true enemy is coming," Valshar said. "And force so vast it will consume both our civilizations unless we evolve. Unless we become something new. Something stronger." "The hybrid soldiers were just the beginning," Wells continued. "We needed proof that true cooperation was possible. You two proved it beyond our wildest expectations." Maya felt sick. The growing attraction between us. Was that engineered too? "Oh no," Wells smiled. "That was beautifully, perfectly natural. Which is why you're both here now. You're going to help us save both our species, whether you want to or not." "Never," Krell growled, his staff extending. "My son," Valshar sighed. "Still so naive. Did you really think we'd give you a choice?" The floor beneath them suddenly hummed with energy. Maya tried to move but found herself paralyzed, caught in some kind of stasis field. Beside her, Krell was similarly frozen. "The hybridization process is painful," Wells said almost apologetically. "But you two represent our best chance at success. Your compatibility is off the charts. Together, you'll become something entirely new. The first of a new species that can stand against what's coming." Through the paralysis, Maya managed to turn her head enough to meet Krell's eyes. In them she saw her own fear, her own rage, but also something else, a determination that reminded her why she'd grown to trust him, to care for him. They had survived impossible odds before. They had forged a connection that transcended species, and somehow, they would find a way through this too. As the stasis field began to lift them toward the waiting tanks, Maya focused on that connection, on the strength they had found in each other. Whatever their captors had planned, whatever horrors awaited them, they would face it together, and then they would make their captors pay. Allies in the dark. The stasis field crackled around them, its energy making Maya's augmentations scream in protest. Through the haze of pain, a memory surfaced, a weakness in Valorian containment technology that she'd discovered during her training, a weakness that their captors, in their arrogance, hadn't considered. "Krell," she managed through gritted teeth, "your core temperature, can you raise it?" Understanding flashed in his alien eyes. Valorian warriors could consciously control their body heat, a survival trait evolved for deep space exploration. As Krell's scales began to glow with internal heat, the stasis field fluctuated. "Impossible," Wells shouted as the field collapsed, dropping Maya and Krell to the floor. They moved instantly, years of combat training taking over. Maya's molecular blade sliced through the first guard's armor, while Krell's staff sent two more flying. They fought back to back, human and Valorian in perfect synchronization. The tanks, Valshar commanded, released the specimens. The hybrid creatures emerged from their fluid chambers, twisted amalgamations of human and Valorian features. Their screams were horrifying. Neither human nor alien, but something broken in between. "They're suffering," Krell growled, his voice thick with rage. "What you've done to them." "We did what was necessary," Wells insisted, backing away as Maya advanced on her. "The enemy is coming. We've seen them in the void between galaxies. Vast, hungry, unstoppable. So you became monsters to fight monsters." Maya's blade hummed. There had to be another way. There wasn't time. The hybridization process was the only. Wells's words cut off as Maya's blade stopped inches from her throat. "Maya," Krell called out, holding his own father at staff point. "The specimens. They're still people, somewhere inside." She understood his meaning. These weren't just experiments. They were victims. Maybe even people they'd known. Soldiers reported missing in action. A massive explosion rocked the facility. Through the breach in the wall, Maya glimpsed the methane storms of Titan raging outside. Warning klaxons blared as the facility's structural integrity began to fail. "It's over," Maya told Wells. "Call off the specimens. Help us evacuate them." "You still don't understand," Wells laughed, almost hysterical now. "This facility isn't just a lab. It's a beacon. The enemy is already here, drawn by our experiments. If you leave now, everything we've sacrificed will be for nothing." As if in response to her words, something massive moved in the storm outside. Something that made both human and Valorian technology scream warnings. "Maya," Krell shouted. "This ship." They ran for the landing pad, helping as many of the specimens as they could. Some were too far gone, their minds lost to the transformation. Others followed with terrible purpose, recognizing their chance at freedom. The facility was collapsing around them as they reached Maya's ship. Through the viewport, they caught glimpses of something vast and dark moving through Titan's atmosphere, geometric shapes that seemed to bend reality around them. "The enemy," Valshar breathed, having followed them to the landing pad. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" "Father," Krell pleaded, "come with us. Help us find a better way." But the High Commander just smiled sadly. "My path ends here, son. Perhaps you and Maya will find that better way. Perhaps love truly is stronger than fear." Before they could stop him, Valshar slammed his hand on the airlock controls, sealing Maya and Krell in the ship with the surviving specimens. The last thing they saw was Wells and Valshar standing together, watching the dark shapes descend as the facility crumbled around them. Maya piloted them through the storm, her augmented reflexes pushed to their limit. Behind them, something impossible reached for their ship with appendages of shadow and void. "We can't outrun them," Krell said, monitoring the sensors. "Not in atmosphere." "Good thing I'm not planning to." Maya grinned, though her face was tight with concentration. "Remember what you told me about Valorian ships and gravity wells?" Krell's mandibles clicked in surprise. "You're not serious. The hull won't take it. Trust me." Their eyes met, and in that moment, everything else fell away. The specimens in their cargo hold, the horrors they'd witnessed, even the vast dark shapes pursuing them. There was only trust, and something deeper neither had dared name. "Always," Krell said. Maya yanked the controls, sending them into a powered dive straight toward Titan's surface. The hull screamed as she pulled up at the last possible moment, using the moon's gravity to slingshot them into space. The dark shapes couldn't match their maneuver. As Maya and Krell watched, they seemed to fold in on themselves, disappearing back into whatever impossible space they'd emerged from. In the sudden quiet of space, Maya finally let herself breathe. We need to get these people help. And then we find a way to stop both the enemy and those who would become them, Krell finished. His scaled hand found hers on the control panel. Together. Maya turned her hand over, letting their fingers intertwine. Human and alien, yet somehow perfectly matched. Together, she agreed. As their ship limped toward the nearest medical facility, they knew their journey was far from over. But they had found something neither expected in this war. Not just an ally, but a partner. Someone to face the darkness with. And perhaps, in that connection, lay the true key to humanity's survival. Beyond the stars. 3 months after escaping Titan, Maya stood before the combined Emergency Council of Earth Command and the Valorian High Circle. The evidence they'd gathered about the experiments, the enemy, and the conspiracy was undeniable. Krell stood beside her, his presence giving her strength as she faced down the leaders of both their species. The threat is real, she concluded, her voice carrying through the vast chamber. But the answer isn't in trying to force evolution or creating weapons from twisted genetics. It's in cooperation. Real cooperation. You're suggesting we simply trust each other. A Terran admiral scoffed. After centuries of war. We're suggesting you look at the proof standing before you, Krell responded. His scaled hand found Maya's, drawing gasps from both sides of the chamber. A human and a Valorian, working together, have accomplished more in 3 months than your wars have in centuries. The hybrid survivors they'd rescued had been stabilized, their genetic structures gradually restored through cooperative work between human and Valorian scientists. More importantly, their shared trauma had forged them into a bridge between the species, living proof that unity was possible. The enemy is still out there, Maya pressed. Those geometric ships we saw on Titan weren't their main force, just scouts. But they showed us something important. They're not invincible. They can be outmaneuvered, outsmarted, if we work together. A deep rumble shook the chamber. Warning sirens blared as tactical displays lit up with impossible readings. Through the chamber's massive viewport, space itself seemed to twist and fold. They're here, Krell growled. The enemy's ships emerged from the void. Vast crystalline structures that defied physics, trailing tendrils of dark energy. Both human and Valorian fleets moved to defensive positions, but their weapons seemed to pass harmlessly through the geometric horrors. This is what Wells and my father feared, Krell said grimly. Why they thought we needed to become something else to fight them. Maya's mind raced, remembering everything they'd learned. No, this is exactly why we need to stay who we are. Admiral, give me control of the human fleet. High Council, let Krell coordinate your ships. We'll show you what true cooperation looks like. Perhaps it was desperation, or perhaps something in their bearing convinced the leaders. But they agreed. What followed was a dance of two species moving as one. Human ships darted and weaved with precision, their superior maneuverability drawing the enemy's attention. Valorian warships used their advanced sensors to track the geometric ship's energy patterns, identifying crucial moments when they became tangible. Maya and Krell coordinated it all, their minds working in perfect synchronization. Where humans saw patterns, Valorians saw energy flows. Where Valorian weapons couldn't penetrate, human missiles found weaknesses. There, Maya shouted as their combined attack finally destroyed one of the enemy ships. They can be beaten. The battle raged for hours, a testament to everything Maya and Krell had learned about each other's species. Human ingenuity combined with Valorian wisdom. Valorian strength enhanced by human adaptability. When it was over, the enemy had retreated, leaving behind only twisted fragments of their impossible ships. The combined fleet had suffered losses, but they had won. More importantly, they had won together. You see now, Maya addressed the stunned council members. This is just the beginning. Imagine what we could accomplish if we truly worked together. Not through forced evolution or genetic manipulation, but through understanding, through trust, through love, Krell added softly, drawing Maya closer. The chamber erupted in discussion, but Maya barely heard it. She looked up at Krell, seeing in his alien features everything she'd come to cherish. His strength, his wisdom, his capacity for growth and change. "You know this changes everything," she said. "It already has." His mandibles curved in what she now recognized as a smile. "But maybe that's exactly what both our species needed." Later, as they stood on the observation deck watching human and Valorian ships working together to clean up the battle debris, Maya reflected on their journey. From enemies to allies to something far deeper, they had forged a path that neither species had imagined possible. "What do you think they'll do now?" she asked, leaning against Krell's solid warmth. "They'll argue. They'll resist. They'll eventually realize we're right." His arms encircled her. "The real question is, what will we do now?" Maya turned in his embrace, reaching up to trace the patterns on his scales. A gesture she'd learned meant deep affection in his culture. "We'll do what we've been doing. We'll face whatever comes next together. We'll show them it's possible to bridge any gap, overcome any difference." "Together," Krell agreed, touching his forehead to hers in the traditional Valorian gesture of commitment. Above them, the stars seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the hope they'd kindled. The enemy would return, and there would be new challenges to face. But they had proven that the strongest weapons weren't forged in secret labs or twisted genetics. They were built in the connections between hearts, in the bridges between species, in the simple truth that love could transform enemies into something extraordinary. Maya and Krell had started as soldiers in an ancient war. They had become partners in an impossible fight. And in finding each other, they had shown both their peoples a path to the stars that none had dreamed possible. It was just the beginning.